I don't think that the United States has the bulk of the responsibility. I really put that on Assad and on the Iraqis and on the region itself. It has.
Right now on a special edition of Politics Now, terrorism taking center stage in the second Democratic debate. We have an expert panel here to break it all down.
My legislation does not, nor do I think we should, at the federal level, say to 50 states in this country, we've legalized marijuana.
And we sit down with Bernie Sanders to talk about issues specific to Nevada, like federal lands and our state's school voucher program.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
And thanks for joining us on this special edition of Politics Now. I'm Patrick Walker. Joining me today, an expert panel to weigh in on the debate, everything that you just saw up until just a few moments ago. Democratic strategist and former state party chairwoman Adriana Martinez is here, along with Joan Cato, who is the Nevada state director for the Sanders campaign, and Michael Schaus with the conservative Nevada Policy Research Institute. Thank you all so much for coming on and joining us. First question, of course, we saw that the debate moved into the, terrorism moving up, foreign policy, obviously, with the events that we saw in Paris the other night. The first question was whether the Obama administration had underestimated the threat. So let's take a listen to how Hillary Clinton answered that, and then we'll weigh in. So here's Clinton's answer.
But it cannot be an American fight. And I think what the president has consistently said, which I agree with, is that we will support those who take the fight to ISIS. That is why we have troops in Iraq that are helping to train and build back up the Iraqi military. I don't think that the United States has the bulk of the responsibility. I really put that on Assad and on the Iraqis and on the region itself.
Well, Adriana, we'll start with you. We've heard Hillary Clinton win, obviously former Secretary of State, the other candidates as well. So who wins on that one? Who came out on top?
Well, I think Clinton did, because I love the fact that she said that this isn't an American fight, and she's pushing it back on them. She says we are going to be a leader as Americans, but it's not going to be our fight. And I thought that was perfect, because I think that the entire country is tired of the American troops always having to be at the forefront. And I was very pleased to hear that she said it was not an American fight, although she understands that she has to continue to push, because obviously we're not going to have any acts of terrorism in our country either.
All right, Joan, how do you see it?
Well, I think Sanders did a really good job, especially when he was talking about being a little bit more conservative than Clinton about regime change. And whenever you go into a country and you're going to decide to go to war, you have to think about the consequences of a regime change. And then he went back and talked about veterans and having to support our veterans after we put them in the country. So I think he really drove it home.
Well, Bernie Sanders, obviously chairing the Veterans Committee in Congress. We'll talk more about that. Speaking of Bernie Sanders, he had a conclusion he drew, and I'm going to come to you on this first. Let's play the soundbite comparing terrorism and climate change. Let's listen to that real quick.
In fact, climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism. And if we do not get our act together and listen to what the scientists say, you're going to see countries all over the world. This is what the CIA says. They're going to be struggling over limited amounts of water, limited amounts of land to grow their crops, and you're going to see all kinds of international conflict.
Michael, how did the conservative side respond to that?
Well, climate change especially is such a divisive issue between conservatives and liberals, environmentalists, and, say, certain business types. I think that's an undue amount of controversy thrown into something that we probably have a good starting point. When it comes to foreign policy especially, I heard some things from a lot of people on stage that I think conservative-sided politicians could potentially latch onto. That was not one of them.
Well, Adriana, that brought the climate change back up a lot higher in the debate than it would have been. Were you surprised to hear that?
I was surprised to hear that, especially because the question was about terrorism, and he brought in climate change, which is a completely different subject. I'm a big believer in climate change, but I don't think that what is our reaction to counterterrorism has anything to do with climate change at that time.
Well, let's listen in now on what Martin O'Malley had to say about letting the Syrian refugees in. He had a number that he stuck to this evening.
John, I was the first person on this stage to say that we should accept the 65,000 Syrian refugees that were fleeing the sort of murder of ISIL. And I believe that that needs to be done with proper screening.
Well, Joan, let's talk a little bit about that as well. What's your reaction to hearing that 65,000 number? Is that right? Is that a good number?
I mean, I think that refugees is something that we have to look at. I mean, it's a big issue right now, and it's a big crisis. And then when you're talking back to I like to bring it back to the environmental issue real quick. When you're talking about Bernie Sanders, pretty much that's the heart of his campaign, because he stands by what he believes in, and he doesn't change his policy and his views just because something else is happening, right? He realizes that terrorism is a big issue. He talked about it. He talked about the importance of getting rid of ISIS.
Right.
And then he talked about how the environment actually creates a competition for resources, which leads to global instability, which causes conflict.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but we have much more to weigh in on coming up after this, including drawing a line.
Reinstating Glass-Steagall is a part of what very well could help, but it is nowhere near enough.
Well, up next, our panel weighs in on Wall Street differences and the immigration debate. Stay with us.
Start your shopping early with great savings during our holiday prep event. Right now, select designer suits are just $229.99. All outerwear is 50% off. Plus, buy one, get one free on more great looks. Survive the holidays with Men's Wearhouse.
Politics Now, Sunday at 5:30 only on 8 News Now.
It pushes me, it challenges me.
I love heat. It's challenging, it's fun, it's awesome.
I've lost 23 pounds.
She lost 23. How much do you want to lose? Do it today at LVAC.
On the Money, Sundays at 5:30 a.m. Sponsored in part by Lawyers West, 702-255-6161.
He's seen the world on the brink. Men like him worked for decades at the Nevada test site and quietly helped win the Cold War, but it cost him his health. America is now honoring this sacrifice by providing free home health care from professional case management. It's the best possible care in the best possible place, home. If you have this card, you are eligible for free home health care. Call 855-CARE today. You've earned it.
Foster Farms presents amazing chicken. Foster Farms hot and spicy wings, 100% natural with no added hormones or steroids. Foster Farms, now in your freezer aisle.
Start your shopping early with great savings during our holiday prep event. Right now, select designer suits are just $229.99. All outerwear is 50% off. Plus, buy one, get one free on more great looks. Survive the holidays with Men's Wearhouse.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Well, welcome back to this special edition of Politics Now. Turning to the topic of Wall Street and the economy, Michael, we'll start with you. The Glass-Steagall debate coming out. Also, we heard invoked Teddy Roosevelt and breaking up the banks. Can you pick a winner out of there as far as policy is concerned for talking about big banks and Wall Street?
I think something that especially conservatives are going to pick up on this is when we were talking about that, we were talking a lot about say, for example, the bailout, the fact that it kind of got into a campaign contribution discussion. We didn't really talk a whole lot about the regulations that helped lead to the financial crisis. And there were a pretty good amount of regulations that encouraged a lot of the bad behavior that we saw. And that was something that none of them really wanted to address. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't start talking more about that.
Well, we saw both O'Malley and Sanders go on to Secretary Clinton, talking about how close she is with Wall Street, her ties obviously representing New York when she was in the Senate. Did that hurt her?
Well, she did talk about her proposal to go after the bank executives, not just Wall Street, the banks, but also the top executives that make all of these decisions. She said she would go after them as well.
And Joan, we also saw this as a point for Bernie Sanders to come out and wake up a little bit. He wasn't quite himself. He didn't look on the foreign policy, but once you got to hear Wall Street, one of his major talking points.
Well, I think he said we're not doing enough. And that's exactly where the whole crowd started cheering. And I think you just really heard the reaction of it. We're not doing enough. We have to focus on the middle class. We have to focus on the income inequality issues that are affecting our country and are quite frankly, like, the major issue of our society right now, economics.
Well, Michael, going to immigration now, also talking about immigration reform, from a conservative point of view, is there anyone of the candidates you could see compromise for comprehensive immigration reform, maybe that the candidates, which one of the candidates would stand out to have a chance with Congress?
Something that I was a little disappointed in, I don't remember any of them talking or definitively saying that, yes, border security should be the very first thing that we tackle. Something that really jumps to my mind would be Australia's immigration laws. Mm-hmm. They had a very difficult time with illegal immigration. They ended up saying, you are not, if you come here illegally, you will never be an Australian citizen, and you're never going to be eligible for certain entitlements. It dried up overnight. They saw illegal immigration go away. Getting rid of the incentives would be a great place to start, and I didn't hear a whole lot of that.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for joining us and coming in. We really appreciate you stopping by, and we hope to see you guys come back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right, well, still to come, sit down with Bernie Sanders.
At Dollar Loan Center, the word no is a good thing. No collateral required, no prepayment penalties, no application fees, and best of all, no checking account required. When banks say no, we say yes. Getting a signature loan up to $2,500 or an auto title loan up to $10,000 from us is a no-brainer. Dollar Loan Center. Lending simplified.
Smokey Robinson presents Human Nature, the Motown Show. Now playing at the Phoenician. Australia's top vocal band will turn this town into Motown. The show for the entire family. If you don't go, you won't know. Human Nature, the Motown Show. Tickets on sale now. For a limited time, locals receive 2-for-1 tickets. Use code LOCAL241.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. Get 0% financing for 75 months on most 2015 Cherokee models at the Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Now get $3,250 total cash allowance on the 2015 Jeep Cherokee Latitude.
Coming up tonight at 11 on 8 News Now, people all around the world and here in the Valley are standing in solidarity with France. We're live from Paris with the latest on the terror attacks. Plus, a man loses his daughter to distracted driving, how he's raising money and awareness for every mile he completes during the Rock and Roll Marathon. And the race is expected to cause some big traffic issues. We'll break down all the road closures for you so you don't get stuck in gridlock.
This is The Race Now, where we tell you about the big political stories making headlines this week. The fourth Republican debate revealed some division between the candidates. It came directly after a federal judge upheld a stay of President Obama's executive orders on immigration. That made illegal immigration a hot topic.
It's hurting us economically. It's hurting us from every standpoint. It's causing tremendous difficulty with respect to drugs and what that does to many of our inner cities.
Even having this conversation sends a powerful signal. They're doing high fives in the Clinton campaign right now when they hear this.
That's an issue to loom large in the general election. Of the frontrunners, Marco Rubio was part of the so-called Gang of 8 immigration plan and remains the only candidate trying to leave room to take more moderate approach to immigration in the general election.
And one noticeable thing from the debate is that Rubio seems to be avoiding talking about his part in the Gang of 8 reform package and what he had to do at this point. So it'll be interesting to see if he ever begins talking about that as this moves forward.
Yeah, it is a tough issue for all the candidates, and you saw how they stepped very delicately around that, appealing to the Republican base in the primary election, and then still leaving room in the general election to kind of appeal to that segment of the voters who they need to win. win.
Absolutely. Well, Bernie Sanders was in Las Vegas for a rally at the beginning of the week as he makes his push for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Yeah, Patrick and I sat down with him to talk about issues specific to Nevada. Here's the first part of that interview, where we talk about the state's education savings accounts, civil forfeiture, and eliminating the so-called Cadillac tax on health care plans. I wanted to ask you about a Nevada issue. There is a new program that the state has initiated called the Education Savings Account, or ESA for short. These essentially take money that would have gone to a public school and put it into an account where a parent can use it to purchase books or tutoring or tuition at a private school. I wanted to know, what do you think of programs like the ESA program?
Not a whole lot. I believe in public education. I believe that public education is intrinsic to our democracy. I think we've got to strengthen public education, not move to the privatization of public education. But when we talk about public education, in my view, we also have to understand that our pre-K and child care system is very, very weak. And I am going to fight as president to make sure that when mom and dad go to work, they will know that their kids will have high quality and affordable child care. And when we talk about education, we're going to fight to make sure that public colleges and universities are tuition free. So we need a revolution in education. We need to have the best educated workforce in the world, and I think a strong public school system is the route to go.
When you look at the healthcare system moving from child care to healthcare, one of the criticisms here in Nevada, one of the larger critics actually on the left side, the unions, which are generally left sympathetic, the Cadillac tax affects them as well. We're talking about now 2018 under the Bernie Sanders healthcare plan. Can you address the needs of the union while
Absolutely.
Still taxing the wealthy?
Well, let me just say a word on the Cadillac plan. I have consistently opposed it. It's unfair, and it's unfair because workers have given up wages and other benefits in order to get decent health care. And now suddenly what occurs, or will occur unless we change it, is to say these guys or their employers are going to have to pay a fairly heavy tax. That's wrong. Now, let me, in general, in terms of health care, let me say this. I think the Affordable Care Act has been a step forward. Millions of people now have health insurance who previously did not. We have ended this obscenity called pre-existing condition, and there have been other improvements. But, having said all of that, we remain the only major wealthy nation on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. I live 100 miles away from the Canadian border. They do it. Europe does it in different ways. I believe we have got to move toward a Medicare for all single-payer system, a system which will be more cost-effective than the current system, and a system which will guarantee health care to all workers and all Americans.
Another issue, up in northern Nevada, this has become a problem. Local police departments have pulled over a motorist, found them to be in possession of large amounts of cash, have seized that cash in a civil forfeiture action, and let the people go, but retained the money. Do you think that we need federal rules to crack down on civil forfeiture?
Absolutely. This is a serious problem, not only in Nevada, but all over this country. I mean, it started, I think, innocently enough as kind of a backdoor way to make sure that we got assets from people we were pretty sure were drug dealers. We got their cars, we got their cash. But it has gone way, way, way beyond where I think anybody intended it to go. And then people have to go into court or go into the police department to get back what is rightfully theirs. Look, in America, the assumption is you are innocent until proven guilty, okay? So if you are charged with a crime and found guilty, you are punished. You are not punished because a police officer pulls you over and takes cash that is in your pocket. I think that is clearly inappropriate and is something that we have got to address.
Well, Bernie weighing in on some of the issues important to Nevadans, and coming up, more Bernie Sanders.
This is what you try. It's being broadcast right into Iowa. Is that right now?
We asked Senator Sanders if he thinks Nevada's caucus should be moved up as a better representation of a diverse America, and what he thinks about legalizing pot.
Have dental insurance? If so, your annual benefits are most likely going to run out at the end of the year. Now is your chance to use them before you lose them. Call us at Bella Smiles and take advantage of our great holiday specials. Interested in Invisalign? We offer free Invisalign consultations and $1,000 off full treatment. Call us today and make your appointment. Bella Smiles, 307-7777, 307-7777. That's 307-7777.
My neighbor says we can get gig internet speed from CenturyLink. If I had a gig, how long would it take to download an HD movie?
About the time it takes me to eat a cookie.
Oh, that's really fast.
CenturyLink is rolling out 1 gig internet service near you. Call to check for availability.
Let's download the sequel. Delicious.
Caregiver support, rehabilitation services, benefits access. Many resources and services are available to help older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers in Nevada. Nevada Care Connection works one-on-one to customize a care plan for you or your loved one. And every time we do, all we ask for is a smile. Nevada Care Connection, how Nevadans find care and support services.
Opportunity has no slow season, no off days or downtime. Opportunity is everything you make of it. This winter, take advantage of our season's best offers on the latest generation of Cadillacs. Get this low mileage lease on this ATS from around $269 per month or purchase with 0% APR financing. Visit your local Cadillac dealer today.
You're watching Politics Now.
Welcome back. In part 2 of our interview with Bernie Sanders, we talk about legalizing pot.
Now, this is an issue that's going to be on the ballot in 2016 for voters. We also asked Bernie Sanders about turning federal lands over to the state. Take a look.
A couple of questions on marijuana and medical marijuana. Obviously, with just introducing a bill yourself, that's been something that's been slow to get going here in Nevada after passing. Now it's going, and even recreational will be on the ballot next year. Looking at that, it's part of your vision of criminal justice reform with your bill, but at the same time, if you leave the powers to the states to ban it and penalties can ensure, does that undermine the efforts of your bill or the federal government?
So let me be clear what I am trying to do and what I am not trying to do. My legislation does not, nor do I think we should, at the federal level, say to 50 states in this country, we've legalized marijuana. We live in an interesting form of government called federalism. And I like that system because you learn from what each states do. Some state does something good, people will steal that idea. Does it bad, you won't go in that direction. So what we have right now in terms of the federal government is you have marijuana now as part of the Controlled Substance Act, a Schedule I drug, right in the same category as heroin, okay? Very few people think, whatever you may think of marijuana, most people don't think marijuana equates to heroin. What I have done in my legislation is taken marijuana completely out of the Controlled Substance Act. So it is no longer a federal crime. It is left to the states. If Nevada does do it, what my legislation will do will make sure that those people in the business can use banking without legal imposition from the federal government. So what we are doing is saying, let the states go forward if they choose, and I think that is the right thing to do. And let me tell you why I'm moving in this direction. We have a criminal justice system which is broken. We have more people in jail today than any other country. Over the last many years, many hundreds of thousands of people in this country have gotten police records, criminal records, because of possession of marijuana. And in many cases, their lives have been significantly altered. Hard to get a job. Some of your employer asked you, do you have a police record? Well, I do. Well, you're not going to work here.
And then along those lines, then, the license is here, and it would likely be this way for recreational. It's a handful of folks that have the ability to sell here, so it's a concentrated pool of money. Is that somewhere also that the federal government should get involved with?
No, I think I don't like it. I mean, I would like to see, like any other business, not see a handful of people control the industry. And I know that is a concern. But those are state, we live in a federalist form of government. That's a statewide decision.
Here in Nevada, especially rural parts of Nevada, there's an issue that's probably not an issue very much in Vermont, and that is public lands. The lawmakers and residents in rural Nevada want more of the public lands, the 86% of public lands that are owned or controlled by the federal government, to be given to the state. They passed a resolution in the last legislature to that effect, sent it to Congress. As president, would you be in favor of turning over more federal lands to state hands?
I think it absolutely depends on the situation. I don't think you can make a blanket answer on that. We're very proud, for example, of the national parks that we have and other federal lands. Clearly, the federal government should be working with the state government in the mutual interest of the people of America and the people of the state. But I think that's a hypothetical that I really can't quite get into.
What rubric would you use to make that decision? Would it be if there was endangered species to be protected, environmental concerns?
Well, that certainly would be one of the considerations. I think if it's federal land, it belongs to all of the people of America.
Right.
And we want to make sure that that continues, and that could, perhaps under some circumstances, under state control. But again, it's something you would have to look at case by case.
A lot of people say, okay, this is one of the first step states, number 4 here. When you talk about the caucuses, about 100 days out. Can you see Nevada with the representation, a lot of the Latino vote here, and the way things are moving now population-wise here in the West? Could you make a case, or would you support a case maybe that the Nevada caucuses should be held higher up, maybe one of the first?
Is this what you're trying? It's being broadcast right into Iowa. Is that right now?
Exactly.
All right, we'll let others make that decision. But let me just say this: we are delighted to be here in Nevada, and you're going to see more of me than you'll probably you get bored of seeing me. We think we have a chance to do really, really well here, and so you will see me quite often, and we're going to do a rally in a little while, and I got to prepare for that. But thank you very much for the opportunity to chat.
Well, some laughs in there toward the end of that interview. He gave us about 30 minutes, whereas most of the other candidates haven't really been able to sit down for much more than maybe 10 or 15.
Yeah, absolutely. He gave a lot of time. He's obviously well versed in the issues, and he saw immediately what you were trying to do to him in with that last question.
We've asked everybody.
We've asked everybody that question. His response, though, I think was the best. Of all the candidates we have asked that question to, his response, I think, was probably the best one.
And I think he got a kick. We also did ask him about Larry David satirizing him on Saturday Night Live, and he seemed to enjoy that as well.
Yeah, he sure did. I think this is kind of represents the more mainstreaming of Bernie Sanders. You know, that he's now a character on Saturday Night Live. It doesn't get more mainstream than that.
This is What to Watch, where we let you know the big political stories to keep an eye on over the next week. Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson is handling some rallies on Sunday. Carson will speak at the International Church of Las Vegas at 11 a.m. and then hold a second rally at the Henderson Pavilion at 3 o'clock. His last visit to Nevada was in August when he went to Gardnerville.
And Congressional District 4 candidates are holding a forum on Monday. It's hosted by Las Vegas City Councilman Ricky Barlow. The debate will be from 6 to 8 p.m. at Las Vegas City Hall.
Well, that's it for Politics Now. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.
Remember, we are your election headquarters, and you can always follow us on LasVegasNow.com.